Welcome to Reference Card, CA Part 1, a quick and smart guidance for easy learning. In the previous section, we briefly explained the structure of CA Part 1 and the importance of understanding and application of IPPF standards. In this lecture, we will study all applicable standards and guidance. As explained in the previous video, the IPPF is the conceptual framework that organizes authoritative guidance issued by the IEA for internal audit professionals worldwide. The IPPF speaks the mission of internal audit, mandatory guidance, and recommended guidance. The mission of an internal auditing speaks what internal audit seeks to accomplish within an organization. The IEA defines the mission of internal audit is that to enhance and protect organizational value by providing risk-based and objective assurance, advice, and insights. International Professional Practices Framework, the IPPF, facilitates the achievement of this mission. Now we will move on to the mandatory guidance. Under mandatory guidance, there are four elements: the core principles for the professional practice of internal auditing, the definition of internal auditing, the code of ethics, finally the standards. Adherence to the mandatory guidance is essential for the professional practice of internal auditing. Now we will study each element in detail. The first and foremost element under mandatory guidance is that the core principles. The core principles are the basis for internal audit effectiveness. The internal audit function is effective if all principles are present and operating effectively. The following are the core principles: demonstrates integrity, demonstrate competence and due professional care, objective and free from undue influence. Both internal auditors and the internal audit activity should be independent, align with the strategies, objective and risk of the organization, is appropriately positioned and adequately resourced, demonstrates quality and continuous improvement, communicate effectively, provide risk-based assurance, is insightful, proactive and future-focused, and finally, promote organizational improvements. How an internal auditor as well as internal audit activity demonstrate achievement of the core principles may be quite different from organization to organization, but failure to achieve any of the principles would indicate that an internal audit activity is not effective as it would be in achieving internal audit mission. Second element of mandatory guidance is that the definition of internal auditing. The definition of internal auditing is a concise statement of the role of the internal audit activity in the organization. Understanding the definition itself will help candidate answer many questions in exams. The definition of internal auditing. Internal auditing is an independent, objective, assurance and consulting activity designed to add value and improve an organization's operations. It helps an organization accomplish its objectives by bringing a systematic, disciplined approach to evaluate and improve the effectiveness of risk management, control, and governance processes. Internal auditing achieves this by providing insight and recommendations based on assessment of data and business processes, with commitment to integrity and accountability. Internal auditing provides value to governing bodies and senior management as an objective source of independent advice. Professionals who called internal auditors are employed by organizations to perform internal audit activity. The third element of mandatory guidance is the code of ethics. A code of ethics is necessary and appropriate for the profession of internal auditing. Code of ethics initiated as it is on the trust placed in its objective assurance about governance, risk management and control. The primary purpose of a code of ethical conduct for a professional organization is to promote an ethical culture among professionals who serve others. The Institute Code of Ethics include two essential components: principles that are relevant to the profession and practice of internal auditing, rules of conduct that describe behavior norms expected of internal auditors. Additional functions of a code of ethical conduct for a professional organization include communicating acceptable values to all members, establishing objective standards against which individuals can measure their own performance, and communicating the organization value to outsiders. These rules are an aid to interpreting the principles into practical applications and are intended to guide the ethical conduct of internal auditors. Internal auditors refers to internal institute members, recipients or candidates for IAA professional certifications and those who perform internal audit services within the definition of internal auditing. The final and fourth element of mandatory guidance is the standards. The standards, formerly known as the International Standards for the Professional Practice of Internal Auditing. Following are the four purposes described by the IAA. Guide adherence with the mandatory elements of the International Professional Practices Framework. Provide a framework for performing and promoting a broad range of value-added internal auditing services. Establish the basis for the evaluation of internal audit performance. Finally, encourage improved organizational processes and operations. The standards are essential to the practice of internal auditing, but CAA candidates need not memorize them. However, the principles they establish should be thoroughly understood and appropriately applied. There are two types of standards, attribute standards and performance standards. Attribute standards addresses the characteristics of organizations and parties performing internal audit activities, numbered in the 1000s, governs the responsibilities, attitude and actions of the organization's internal audit activity and the people who serve as internal auditors. In performance standards, describe the nature of internal audit activities and provide criteria against which the performance of these services can be evaluated, numbered in the 2000s, govern the nature of internal auditing and provide quality criteria for evaluating the internal audit function's performance. Interpretations are provided by the IAA to clarify terms and concepts referred to in attributes or performance standards. Implementation standards expand upon the individual attribute or performance standards by providing the requirements applicable to assurance or consulting services. The core principles and the definition of internal auditing are included comprehensively in the Code of Ethics and the standards. Thus, conformance with the Code of Ethics and the standards demonstrates conformance with all mandatory elements of the IPPF. Now we will study recommended guidance. Under recommended guidance, there are two elements, implementation guidance and supplemental guidance. The pronouncements that constitute recommended guidance have been developed by the IAA through a formal approval process. They describe practices for effective implementation of the core principles, the definition of internal auditing, the code of ethics, and the standards. The two recommended elements of the IPPF are implementation guidance and supplemental guidance. Implementation guidance is designed to help internal auditors understand how to apply and conform with the requirements of mandatory guidance. In supplemental guidance, provide detailed guidance for conducting internal audit activities. These include topical areas, sector-specific issues, as well as processes and procedures, tools and techniques, programs, step-by-step approaches, and examples of deliverables. Examples of supplemental guidance are all practice guides issued by the IAA, global technology audit guides, and guides to the assessment of IT risk. Thank you for watching. See you on next video.